Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the motion to override on the child welfare funds. And just to be clear on the record, I don't think any of you are bad people. If you don't vote for this, I don't think you're a bad person. I was raised to always assume good intent. And so maybe our intentions are different. And maybe you're thinking of a different long-term outcome for these kids than I am. And so that's okay. None of us are bad people for the votes that we take. But I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what's going on for kids in this state, because it's not good. It's dangerous for kids to be involved in our child welfare system. And it's scary if you're a kid who is in an abusive setting, and maybe there's nowhere for you to go. This amount of money seems really small, but honestly, I shouldn't be standing up here worried about it because it doesn't impact my district one iota. All of this money goes to outstate Nebraska. Douglas and Sarpy County are set. Their contract is done. Their money was not reduced. All of this is in outstate Nebraska. And the three things that it impacts: congregate care, which are group homes or shelter care, drug testing, and family supports. And the two that are most important for outstate Nebraska, the biggest one is shelter care. When you have a kid who is in an unsafe environment, where do you take them if there is no funding for your shelter care? Do you have the cops drive them around in a car like we do right now for people who are EPC'd? Drive them around and hope that a hospital bed will take them? Or do you take them out of Western Nebraska and bring them to Omaha to a group home because that's where they have enough funding for them? Is that what we want? To be out of their communities? My understanding of Western Nebraska from my colleagues is that you like to take care of your own, and I want to encourage that. But cuts like this prevent your providers from staying in your communities. This also cuts family supports. Family supports are wraparound services. It's when you see that a kid is, the situation is 50-50, right? Maybe it's a dirty house. You'd want to remove that kid, but you also want to keep the family intact. So a supportive method would be to say, we're going to help you clean that house so that your kids can stay there, so that that family can remain intact. That's what family supports look like. These are pieces of the puzzle, and while this seems like such a small cut, it is huge for small communities. These providers can't keep providing these services when they're not getting paid for them. So I keep checking up there. Actually, Senator Brosh, would you yield to a question?
Senator Brosh, would you yield, please?
I will yield.
Thank you. Can you tell me, are there any kids up there, up in the balcony?
There are not.
Perfect, thank you. All right, I wanted to make sure there were no kids up there because I'd like to share some stories with you for kids in outstate Nebraska who died or were seriously harmed. So I'll start with an 8-month-old who was flown to Children's Hospital in Omaha after being found unresponsive while in the care of his 26-year-old father. The child died 2 days later due to a subdural hematoma, retinal hemorrhage, and a lacerated liver. In addition, he had several broken bones. The father pled guilty to causing his son's death. Now, as an isolated incident, gosh, maybe something happened, right? Maybe we didn't know as a state. But that's not accurate. The department had received 5 reports to the hotline about this child, and they didn't send anybody out, right? They knew that the mom was suffering from depression. They knew that the caseworker had made contact with the family and that mom was so overwhelmed she had made arrangements for her own child to live with the babysitter. And the DHHS caseworker helped the mom give power of attorney for her son to the babysitter, who only a month later sent the child to live with the father, who subsequently killed him. These are our kids. These are Nebraska babies, and they're not in Douglas and Sarpy County. They're in southeastern Nebraska, they're in western Nebraska. And when we make choices about this, while it seems like a small thing, we are making choices about children in our state who are scared and vulnerable and alone. And yeah, I'm scared of the thunderstorm, but I'm gonna be fine tonight. If we don't have shelter care services in Western Nebraska, there are kids who won't be fine tonight.
Time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Sara Howard.